My name is Nicole Lewis, and I never thought I would ever tell a story like this. But after what happened to me that night, I just couldn't stay quiet anymore. I was a normal 38-year-old woman, a nurse, a daughter, and a wife, just living my life and trying my best every day. I wasn't special or famous. I was just an ordinary person. But after my near-death experience, my entire life changed forever. That night, I almost died, and in that short space between life and death, I met Jesus in a way that completely changed how I see history, identity, and truth. He opened my eyes to a hidden story about Black people, a legacy of kings, warriors, spiritual leaders, and great nations that had been buried for centuries under lies, silence, and neglect. What he showed me shook everything I thought I knew about the past. And today, I feel led to share that experience with you. That day started just like any normal day. Nothing felt special about it. I woke up early, made myself a strong cup of coffee, and shared a few light, happy moments with my husband before leaving for work. Then I headed to the hospital. The day was filled with the usual routine, caring for patients, checking vital signs, helping people feel safe, and offering gentle smiles even when I felt tired. Everything felt normal. There was comfort in the small details, the laughter in the staff room, the quiet moments in the break room, the familiar faces, the same daily rhythm. It was just another regular day. Looking back now, I realize how ordinary that day felt, which makes what happened later even more shocking. That evening, while driving home in the rain, I remember the sound of raindrops hitting my windshield and the soft hum of my car engine. The roads were wet, the night was dark, and everything felt calm and quiet, almost peaceful in a simple way, like a movie scene. Then suddenly, without warning, bright headlights cut through the rain. I barely had time to understand what was happening. A car, completely out of control, came rushing straight toward me. I hit the brakes with all my strength. My heart was pounding fast in my chest. But it was too late. The crash happened in an instant. Everything exploded into loud sounds, metal crashing, glass breaking, noise and chaos everywhere. But then, in the middle of all that destruction, something unexpected happened. A deep calm came over me. A peace so strong and so real that it didn't make sense. In that moment, I knew something supernatural was happening. I wasn't scared. I didn't feel pain. Instead, I felt like I was being gently lifted out of the horror of the accident. Suddenly, I was no longer in my body. I was floating. I was free. I was separated from the pain, the fear, and the wreckage. I could see my body lying in the destroyed car below me, but I didn't feel sadness or panic. I only felt calm and curiosity. Then a bright, radiant light surrounded me. It carried a warmth that made me feel safe, protected, and deeply loved. It felt like entering a place where time didn't exist, a peaceful world filled with light, silence, and comfort. And then I saw him. Jesus stood there in that glowing space, more real than anything I had ever seen before. He didn't look like the pictures I had grown up seeing in church. There was no image that could compare to him. He was pure light, full of love, with eyes full of compassion. His presence alone made every fear disappear. When he spoke, his voice felt gentle, powerful, and calming. "Nicole, don't be afraid," he said. As he reached out to me, I felt a powerful wave of love and energy flow through me. In that moment, every doubt, every fear, every insecurity I had ever carried disappeared. I knew I was about to hear truths that would change everything I believed about myself, my identity, and the history of my people. Jesus led me deeper into a vision, one that felt alive, moving, and real. It was like watching a living story of history unfold before my eyes. Suddenly, I was seeing scenes beyond time. Entire civilizations appeared, powerful, beautiful, and full of life. Leaders wore garments that shined like gold. Cities glowed with strength and order. I saw Black kings and queens, not broken, not defeated, not enslaved, but powerful rulers, full of wisdom, dignity, and authority. Their presence alone commanded respect. I saw scholars with great knowledge, warriors whose strength came not just from their bodies but from their spirit, and spiritual leaders whose voices carried power and peace. Jesus looked at me and said gently, "Nicole, look closely. This is the legacy of my people. This is the truth that has been hidden from you." He showed me ancient scrolls filled with stories of great empires, advanced cultures, innovation, justice, and beauty. I saw massive libraries, holy temples, and learning centers where knowledge was honored and wisdom was respected. Every person mattered. Every life had value. This history had been erased, hidden, buried, covered by pain, lies, and oppression. Then Jesus said, "For too long, the world has forgotten that my children are made in my image. They were born to lead, born to heal, born to bring light into dark places." I felt overwhelmed. Every image and every word showed a people who were once honored, celebrated, and cherished, not broken or worthless like the stories I had grown up hearing. Tears flowed down my face as I realized the truth. Our real history is not one of defeat, but of hope, power, and purpose. Jesus continued, "Your ancestors were not meant to live in shadows. They were warriors, healers, and visionaries. They were deeply connected to the divine. Look at the scriptures," he said. "Look at Proverbs chapter 31. Look at Isaiah chapter 60. These scriptures speak of strength, beauty, light, and glory." I remembered how the Bible always talks about light, radiance, and glory when describing God's chosen people. And now I could see that same light shining in the faces of the people history had tried to erase. I saw busy marketplaces full of wisdom, royal courts filled with justice and compassion, and places where art, music, and dance honored God in every expression. Jesus said, "This is the truth that was taken from you. But it is not gone. It is waiting to be remembered, waiting for you to reclaim it." In that moment, I felt a strong purpose rise inside me. I knew my near-death experience was not random. It was a calling, a mission, a message for my people. I felt the strength of generations flowing through me. I saw a lineage of dignity, power, and excellence that the world had tried to destroy. I felt the identity of kings and queens, not in pride, but in divine purpose. The revelation was beautiful and painful at the same time. Beautiful because of what it revealed. Painful because of what had been stolen. Jesus' words stayed in my heart. "You are not defined by the scars of your past. You are defined by the divine legacy in your blood. You are part of an eternal story, a story of hope, restoration, and redemption." I knew then that my mission was not just to remember, but to tell the truth. To awaken my people. To help them see that the story they were taught was only a shadow of the real truth. Then Jesus showed me how everything was connected to Scripture. He said, "Nicole, the truth you saw is written in my word. Look at Revelation chapter 7 verse 9, a great multitude from every nation standing before my throne, clothed in glory." My people, your people, were always meant for that glory. Then he reminded me of Jeremiah chapter 29 verse 11, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." That verse had comforted me many times before. But now, hearing it from him directly, it felt personal. It felt alive. It felt like a promise. In that sacred moment, I understood, the pain of the past was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning of something greater. Then Jesus pointed me to scriptures that many people had ignored or misunderstood. "Look at Micah chapter 6, verse 8, he said gently. "Do what is right, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God." He explained that these words were more than simple instructions. They were not just moral advice. They were a call to reclaim who you truly are and to live fully in the identity God intended for you from the beginning. As he spoke, I felt a sudden rush of inspiration deep within me. I realized that these ancient scriptures were not just old stories or religious rules. They were keys meant to unlock a forgotten history filled with dignity, purpose, and strength. Our conversation felt warm and personal, like a deep heart-to-heart with someone who knew me completely and cared deeply for my soul. Jesus then explained that the enemy had deliberately hidden these truths. He said the scriptures had been twisted, misused, and distorted to support oppression and false narratives. They buried the real message under layers of lies, Jesus said calmly, but the light of truth can never be completely extinguished. I listened closely as he spoke about the prophets of old, how they had foretold a time when hidden truths would rise again like a powerful river, washing away the lies and deceptions of the past. Then he shared a prophecy that touched my heart deeply. Isaiah chapter 60 speaks of a day when nations will come to your light, Jesus said. That is the day of awakening, the moment when you realize that your true history is not one of pain and defeat, but of beauty, honor, and divine purpose. I could almost see that future with my own eyes, a time when darkness and deception would finally be replaced by a bright, unstoppable truth. Throughout our conversation, Jesus blended prophetic vision with practical guidance. He encouraged me to go deeper into the scriptures, not to read them casually, but to search them with intention. Study the parables, the prophecies, and the Psalms, he urged. Every word carries the power to lead you back to your true identity. In that moment, I made a promise to myself. I would not allow these words to fade away. I would carry them with me and share them with anyone willing to listen. At times, our conversation became deeply personal. I asked him quietly, "Lord, how do I keep this truth alive in a world that constantly tells me something different?" Jesus smiled, a smile filled with understanding, strength, and quiet authority. "Keep your heart open and your mind alert," he said. "Surround yourself with people who seek truth, and never let anyone measure your worth by the lies of this world." Suddenly, everything became clear to me. The scriptures were not lifeless words from the past, they were alive, active, and meant to guide us into a future of hope, healing, and renewal. As I sat there, surrounded by the gentle glow of divine truth, I felt an unshakable certainty. The restoration of our true history was not just possible, it was already beginning. Then Jesus explained something deeper. He said the world we see today, filled with injustice, manipulation, and division, is the result of a deliberate spiritual battle. "Nicole," he said, "the enemy is not just a force of nature. He is a master deceiver. He has woven lies into the foundation of society, distorting history, corrupting truth, and convincing people that their worth is less than it truly is." My heart raced as he described this hidden war. "Think about Ephesians chapter 6, he continued. The armor of God is not symbolic decoration, it is protection against the enemy's tactics." Jesus explained how deception spreads through media, education, and even twisted religious teachings. All designed to keep people believing they are inferior. He wants you to think you are defined by suffering, Jesus said, but that is not who you are. As he spoke, I saw vivid images in my mind, dark corners of history where once great cultures were pushed aside, their brilliance erased, their stories rewritten to serve systems of control. "Your people were never meant to be subjugated," Jesus said firmly. "They were created to shine, to lead, and to heal. But the enemy used every method available, division, misinformation, and even false prophets, to steal that truth away." I felt anger and deep sorrow as the full weight of the deception became clear. "Lord," I asked, "why would anyone allow something like this to happen?" Jesus answered softly, "Because the enemy fears the power of truth. The more you understand who you really are, the harder it becomes for him to control you." He reminded me of Psalm chapter 82, explaining that even among darkness, justice would prevail. "You are not defined by oppression," he said. "You are defined by the divine light within you." Jesus continued, "Every lie and false story acts like a chain meant to keep you trapped in pain. But know this, I came to break those chains. Stand firm in my word. Let it be your shield." As he spoke, familiar scriptures came to mind. Romans chapter 8, Hebrews chapter 11, verses about faith strong enough to move mountains. In that moment, I understood that victory over deception comes through truth, faith, and knowing our divine heritage. "The enemy thrives in darkness," Jesus said. "So let the light of truth shine through you. Question what you have been taught. Test everything against the truth of Scripture." I realized that the battle against deception is ongoing. It requires alertness, courage, and faith, and the willingness to challenge every lie, no matter how deeply rooted. As I absorbed his words, something inside me changed. I would no longer passively accept a distorted history. I would stand tall and speak the truth, confident that the divine light within me was stronger than any lie. Just as I was beginning to fully grasp the weight of this spiritual battle, Jesus' tone shifted. It became urgent, a call to action. "Tomorrow," he said, "the time has come for you to rise. Your journey does not end here. This is only the beginning. You, and all my children, are meant to lead in this new dawn of truth." He outlined a plan for awakening, simple yet powerful. Start with my word, Jesus said. Read Isaiah chapter 58 and understand that true fasting is about freeing the oppressed and breaking chains. Meditate on Matthew chapter 5 and remember that the meek are promised the kingdom. Let these scriptures become your foundation, your resistance against the lies that once held you captive. I listened closely, as though every word was sacred instruction. Jesus also stressed the importance of unity and community. Gather with others who seek truth, he said. Form prayer groups. Study together. Never let anyone tell you your heritage is a burden. It is a glorious inheritance. He reminded me of Joshua chapter 1 verse 9, to be strong and courageous. Face what lies ahead with faith, he said. I felt a heavy but holy responsibility settle on me, a calling I could not ignore. I'll do it, Lord, I whispered. I'll share this truth, no matter how difficult it becomes. Jesus nodded with approval. That's right, Nicole. Your mission is not to blend into the lies of the world, but to be the light that leads others back to truth. Embrace who you are. Every step you take in faith weakens the grip of deception. Then he began to speak about practical steps. Start every day with prayer, Jesus told me. Study the scriptures not only for comfort, but for revelation. And challenge every story that tells you that you are less than who I created you to be. Then he pointed to a familiar story from the Bible. Think about David, he said. He was only a shepherd boy. Small, overlooked, but he faced giants with nothing but faith. Jesus looked at me and said, in the same way, you may feel small at times, but with my guidance, you are powerful. That image made me smile. I felt connected to David, a forgotten hero whose courage still lived on through faith. It reminded me that strength does not come from size or status, but from trusting God. Jesus continued, every time you speak this truth, every time you stand firm and say, this is who I am, you weaken the enemy's fortress of lies. Do not lose heart when things feel difficult, he added. My promise in Jeremiah chapter 29 verse 11 still stands. There is a future full of hope prepared for you. As we talked, I began to see the future more clearly. This journey was not just about recovering a lost past. It was about building a future where my people could finally live fully in their God-given identity. Your awakening, Jesus said, is only the beginning. When you reclaim your truth, others will be inspired to do the same. Your testimony will spread farther than you realize, touching lives and changing hearts. I felt something ignite inside me, a deep fire and passion. I knew I didn't just want to live by these truths. I wanted to share them with everyone I met. Then I asked him something that had been weighing on my heart. Lord, I said softly, how do I face people who will never believe me? How do I stay strong when the world seems determined to hide the truth? Jesus smiled gently, as if he had been waiting for that question. Nicole, he said, every challenge is an opportunity for your light to shine. Remember Daniel in the lion's den, he continued. His faith never failed him, and he came out stronger because he trusted my protection. You must trust the strength I give you as well. Every time you share your story, Jesus said, let the truth guide you. Stay close to those who support you, and confront lies with the light of my word. I then asked him about everyday struggles, about joy, exhaustion, and living in a world that often feels harsh and unforgiving. Look to the Psalms, Jesus said kindly. They remind you that even in your darkest moments, I am your refuge. Psalm chapter 23 tells you that I lead you beside still waters and restore your soul. When life becomes overwhelming, he added, hold on to that promise and let it bring you peace. His words stirred memories of times I had felt completely alone. Yet now I understood, even in solitude, I had never truly been abandoned. Our conversation then turned practical again. Jesus encouraged me to write down my experiences. Record your journey, he said. Write about your struggles and your victories. Let others see the light through your story. When people read your words, he continued, let them see that even in chaos, hope still exists. I promised him I would. I decided to keep a journal, to capture every revelation, every lesson, every moment of growth and victory over doubt. Then Jesus spoke about forgiveness. Forgive those who spread lies and cause pain, he said, not for their sake, but to free your own spirit. He reminded me of Matthew chapter 5 verse 44. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Forgiveness, he explained, is not weakness. It is power. It breaks the cycle of pain. As I listened, I felt years of anger slowly lift from my heart. I finally understood, forgiveness was strength, not surrender. Jesus then shared stories of everyday heroes, ordinary people who chose truth over comfort. Mothers who raised their children with pride in their heritage. Community leaders who secretly passed down forgotten history. Everyday people who quietly resisted lies through courage and faith. Your journey is part of that greater story, he told me. Every brave choice you make adds to a legacy that will shine for generations. But the vision didn't end there. In the final moments, before everything began to shift again, Jesus shared what felt like the last and most important piece of the divine puzzle. Tomorrow, he said, your journey continues. The truth you carry will not only change you, it will awaken millions. He showed me a vision of the future, a world where Black heritage is no longer hidden, but honored. A world where Black children grow up knowing their worth. Where communities thrive in the strength of their ancestry. Where God's word guides people toward justice, healing, and unity. I felt the promise in his voice, a promise echoing Isaiah chapter 40 verse 31, that those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength and rise like eagles. Then Jesus made it personal. I want you to be a messenger, he said. Not because you are perfect, but because your journey, your struggles and victories, will speak to others in ways words alone cannot. Write your testimony. Speak your truth. Let your life be part of the awakening. Tears filled my eyes as I promised him I would carry this message no matter the cost. He reminded me of 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 15. Always be ready to give an answer for the hope within you, but do it with gentleness and respect. Your voice, he said, will be a light for those lost in deception. And finally, he said, when you stumble, remember this, my grace is enough. My strength is made perfect in your weakness. I took a deep breath as the weight of my calling settled in my spirit, a calling to bring light, truth, and healing to a world desperate for hope. In those final moments, Jesus made one last promise. The revelations I had received were not meant to stay hidden in my heart. They were meant to break free and transform lives. Nicole, go forward with courage, Jesus said to me. Know that every word you speak and every step you take will testify to the unbreakable spirit of my people. I am with you always. And just like that, the vision began to fade. The glowing garden, the deep conversations, and the overwhelming sense of divine purpose slowly dissolved, as if I were being gently pulled away. I felt myself drifting back to the world I had left behind. The bright, comforting light dimmed little by little, and I felt the familiar weight of my body returning. In a single moment, I was no longer floating in that timeless place. I was back in a hospital room. The steady beeping of machines filled the air. Soft humming sounds surrounded me, familiar and grounding. I opened my eyes to see worried faces leaning over me, doctors and nurses moving quickly, their expressions full of relief and disbelief. I felt the cool touch of a blanket on my skin, heard quiet voices speaking urgently, and knew I had returned to the physical world. Yet even in that busy hospital room, I knew something inside me had changed forever. As I lay there, I replayed everything, every word Jesus spoke, every image I had seen, every truth that had been revealed. I understood then that my near-death experience was not an accident. It was divine intervention. It wasn't just meant to awaken me, but countless others who had been bound by lies for generations. I knew I could not stay silent. In the days that followed, as my strength slowly returned, I began to speak. First to my family, then to close friends, and eventually to anyone who would listen. I shared my encounter with Jesus and the hidden legacy of Black people that he had revealed to me. I spoke about the scriptures that had come alive in my heart, verses filled with hope, restoration, and dignity. I reminded people of Joshua chapter 1 verse 9, be strong and courageous, and I told them that our worth was never defined by the lies of the past. My life now had a clear purpose. Every time I spoke or wrote, I could feel God's presence guiding me. I started small, meetings at community centers, conversations at church gatherings, quiet one-on-one talks. And the more I shared, the more I saw how deeply the truth touched people. Strangers would come up to me afterward, their eyes full of emotion, saying, I never knew our history could be so beautiful. Thank you for opening my eyes. Even now, in simple moments, When I catch my reflection or feel a gentle breeze on my face, I remember that sacred encounter. I remember Jesus' voice, his steady love, and his promise that I would never walk alone. I know this path will not always be easy. There will be challenges, there will be resistance, but the road ahead is lit by an eternal light, a truth so powerful that no darkness can ever overcome it. So I continue forward, carrying the lessons of that night with me. I choose to keep speaking. I choose to keep sharing. I choose to let truth shine through every part of my life. Because I now understand this, when we embrace who we truly are, we unlock a power that can change the world. If this story touched your heart or opened your eyes, please give this video a thumbs up to show your support. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any future testimonies and messages of hope. And leave a comment below to share how this story spoke to you. I'd love to hear from you and continue this journey of truth together. I share this testimony not with fancy words or polished speeches, but with honesty, the honesty of someone who has seen both divine revelation and human struggle. I invite you to look beyond what you have been told, to search the scriptures for yourself, to reclaim the glorious legacy that has always belonged to you. May my story be a small light in a great darkness, a spark that ignites your own journey toward truth, hope, and the endless love our Creator has freely given us all.